It's time for some Srila Prabhupada pastimes with Visvakarma Prabhu. Visvakarma Prabhu joined the movement in 1971. He was the temple president from 1974 to 1975, right?
Yes.
1975 to 1985, the longest temple president serving in America or
In the world
in
at
the
the
world
time.
at the time.
So, I don't know. There may be longer now. I doubt it. If there are even any temple presidents.
Okay, Prabhu. So let's go on with the Prabhupada pastimes. Let's launch into the ether.
Prabhupada came to Toronto in 1976 to celebrate the purchase of the Toronto Temple. And every morning, he was there for 4 days. And so every morning, we would go on a morning walk, of course. And when I was in India, because I was going to India from 73 to 77 for 5 years. I went every year to the Prabhupada Mayapur festival, the Lord Chaitanya Mayapur festival. Prabhupada wanted us to come to India for rejuvenation, so that we could be with him and, of course, go on parikram to all the holy places, and then our respective regions and preach with enthusiasm the Sankirtan mission. But when we were in India, I got to go on some walks, but it was a kind of an exclusive group that was allowed to go with Prabhupada back then. So it was always the sannyasis or GBCs. And of course, because there were so many devotees there in India, if they were allowed, we'd have hundreds of people that went on Prabhupada's walks. So fair enough, you couldn't really make your way onto the walks. Like I said, I did go on some walks. I was on the walk where Prabhupada talked about the war. He said someday there'll be a nuclear war. He created this, it would be between India and Pakistan. So it was really a famous comment that he made. And it really affected everybody during the Mayapur festival to think that eventually there would be a nuclear war. And nowadays, there is a threat of nuclear war in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, and the spilling over to NATO.
Right.
Participation. So we could all be mindful of that our life, everything may change in a moment.
Right.
Because of nuclear war and due to sinful activity, bad karma of the societies that are killing animals and committing abortion on a daily basis in large numbers. So anyway, we were on a walk in Toronto. Now I made a rule because I was somebody. I was the president, so at least I had a chance to make a rule. So I made a rule that anybody could come on the morning walk, provided they provided their own transportation. So there were lots of people, East Indian people, that were coming to see Prabhupada, and devotees from other cities, and of course the local temple. So outside of people that had to stay at the temple to cook the prasadam and do the deity worship and do the preparation for the morning program, everybody else would come on the walks. And I just join in as part of the crowd. I just walk in the middle of the crowd and just try to blend in. Unfortunately, we have many pictures of those walks by a devotee, Hasti Gopal. I'd given him a budget to buy film, and he took hundreds and hundreds of pictures of Prabhupada in Toronto. Lots of them. So, they're in the archives, of course. And so I was on the walk. People were asking Prabhupada all kinds of questions all the time. Like personally, I drove Prabhupada quite a bit in the car. I drove when he was in Toronto, I drove him, and I just kept quiet while driving. I just concentrated. I wanted to make sure I didn't get in an accident, make a mistake. And so I managed to, when Prabhupada came to Toronto, I was able to be in the car because I decided I would be the driver. I was the least I had that position. So I thought, okay, I'm in a position to decide who's going to drive. And I thought, anybody else? No, Vishvakarma can drive. But I never asked a question. I never mentioned a word in the car. Generally, it was silent. When we got in the car, it was silent. Everybody chanted japa, and we just went on, to the location that I was going to take them to for the walk. So this walk was on the beaches. That's down by the water of Lake Ontario. So we got there, everybody piled out of the cars and got excited, and we were like this big crowd moving down the walkway. And I was thinking to myself, I really have a question I want to ask Prabhupada. And I thought, should I do it? I was nervous. I thought, oh, if I say the wrong thing, I may get yelled at or chastised. And anybody with half a brain knew, be careful around the spiritual master. Because Prabhupada, the term guru means heavy with words. And really, the last thing you wanted to do was make Prabhupada angry with you. Like, why are you asking me this question? So I thought, I don't know what to do. Should I ask the question? And finally, we were moving along, and I moved up behind him, and and he stopped. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, if you're a brahmachari and you decide that you want to get married, is this considered a fall down? And Prabhupada looked at me and he said, where is the question of fall down when you're already fallen?
Where's the question of fall down when we're already fallen?
Yes, when you're already fallen. So there's a lot to be understood from that. And that we are in a process of purification as students of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And we should always see ourselves as servants of the servants of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada explained that to me in another pastime that I had with him. I was getting initiated in Detroit in 1971. And the temple room was packed with devotees from Cleveland, from Chicago, and from New York. All the American temples from Detroit was there, and Hamilton, Toronto came, all the devotees. So we all congregated into Detroit in 1971 in July. So the temple room was in a house on Jefferson Avenue. This is before we bought the Fisher Mansion. The Fisher Mansion and the Toronto Temple were both purchased at the same time. And that's another story for us to discuss in the future. But I'll finish with this story. So Prabhupada called my name out in the temple, Bobby Hebert. And I came up in front of the Vyasa-san. I stumbled up, very nervous. Like all of us, I was a young man at 24, so I kind of knew the philosophy. I kind of dragged myself into Krishna consciousness and was trying to carry on as a devotee with my head shaved, even though I was in love with my long hair. I was a famous musician from the local Toronto, Hamilton area in a band known as the Jameson Roberts Blues Band with Uddhama Shloka and a group of other people that were affiliated with us. Another devotee, Mahavir from Hamilton, who went and opened up Brazil and South America as the first Sankirtan devotee. And Uddhama was the president of Toronto and then president of Chicago and Montreal. So for a short period of time. So anyway, I get called up and I walk up and Prabhupada goes like this. He says, what are the 4 regulated principles? And I got a chance to read the transcript recently. And I said to him, no illicit sex life, and no intoxication. I started with those two. And he stopped me. He goes, that's enough. Your name is Visvakarma Das. And then all the devotees in the room cheered. Now, I have to be honest. I didn't even know, I'd never heard of the name Visvakarma because we didn't have any books with that name in them. All we had was the original Blue Bhagavad Gita, the BTGs, on chanting, Easy Journey to Other Planets, and the three original volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam in Hamilton Temple, the volume from 62, the version, the 64 version, and the 65 version. So I didn't know who Visvakarma was, but everybody else did. And there was like this cheer. Oh, wow. Like, because it's, now I know it's a famous name in our tradition. You know, he's the chief engineer of the universe. And assists Lord Brahma in the creation of the planetary systems, upper, lower, and middle planetary systems. So Prabhupada looked at me very seriously and he said, but you should never think you are but you are the servant of the servant of the servant of the chief engineer. In this way, you'll become great.
Try.
So this is anyone who says that you're the servant of Krishna. Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Devotion that Krishna tells his devotee, anyone who says they're my devotee is not my devotee, but one who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. So we should always remember to be the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And the more we are servant, the greater we'll become.
Right. All right, Prabhu, thank you very much. And just for the future broadcast, since you got the Toronto temple and how you guys acquired it, you would be telling a story about that. So please stay tuned for that pastime, maybe in a few days or a few weeks.
Well, I can tell you this, that in 1976, actually 1977 at the Mayapur festival, I was standing in line with the devotees when Prabhupada was coming back from his morning walk. And he came straight up to me. Actually, he walked past me and then he noticed me and he walked back to me and looked at me and said, can you come to my room tonight at 7:30 and explain to me how we got the Toronto temple? So that will be our next pastime, how I was invited to Prabhupada's room to explain the story of how we tricked the Christians into selling the Toronto temple to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami when they said they would rather burn it down than sell it to him.
All right. Thank you very much, Prabhu. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.